Another thing that you had mentioned is that a part of unlocking the strategic thinking is prompting. We went through a big cycle over the last couple of years where everybody, the number one hire was prompt engineers. We need prompt engineers. And there was like trending on LinkedIn, and it just incredible. And then that passed because we realized that they were good at creating prompts, but they didn't have our expertise. They didn't have our understanding of the customer. And so we really have to put that prompting expertise in the hands of the go-to-market teams. But we still look at that blank box when we start to chat. We do a lot of our own prompts that we reuse over and over again. How do we get to be better prompting experts, right? It's such an important part of unlocking that. And I'll give you one stat. It's not a stat. Claude called it a finding, and then ChatGPT agreed with it. But they said that over the prompts that they get, that there's 6 different inputs that they want. 4 are buyer insight related, but they get 2 on average out of the 6 that they need. And then what Claude said is, then what we do is we invent the rest. Like, did you want to, you're trying to, like, you chat back and forth, right? Did you mean to use that word, invent? And yes, prompting is so important. In fact, and I'll throw you one last study and add out to chat because I wanted to be part of what you think about. MIT Sloan School did a big survey or a study, and they found that half the value of the new models that are coming out is not the model itself, it's the prompt. If you don't get the prompt right, you're not going to utilize the model right. You don't have the right data coming in, right? So these pieces of like utilizing the models with the right data and the right prompt, huge to unlock the thinking. But how do you prompt it? How do you teach your team to prompt? Do you guide them? Like, how do you think about it?
Yeah. So I come from a Google world, right? And in Google, you can create gems in Google Enterprise. So you would have gems for social media posts. You would have gems for writing an article around certain topics. And you could have tons of gems. And that was almost a year ago already. I think that world has evolved ever so since. And let me give you another example. I started vibe coding half a year ago. I had no clue what it was basically, but a good friend of mine told me, you can make prototypes. You should do it. So instead of describing what you, and I was like, okay, I got so sick of PowerPoint. I've done too many of those in my life. So I thought, okay, let me try this out. And this is not a promotion for Lovable, but I love the tool. So I started vibe coding in Lovable. And I noticed that when I wanted to advance stuff, when I wanted to build APIs and websites that were a little bit more advanced, I came to a challenge, right? Because I felt that the model didn't understand what I wanted. Then I started to use Claude. I said, okay, Claude, I want to rebuild this page. I want to keep the same format. These reports are super important. I want a button to open it so you can actually interact with the content and stuff. And then I would copy paste the URL from my vibe coded site into Claude, and it would come out with a prompt that was so long, so many details. And I would, and it was like, you just copy paste this into Lovable. I did, and it was better than I had hoped for, right? That was mind-blowing to me. So I think my point is, I wouldn't advise start chasing the perfect prompt because I know output is as good as input, right? But the models are getting better. But I think also try to be a bit smart about how you handle it, because what I learned is that you have to have quite many details in there if you want to get it right. And sometimes it's just, you can't even get to that level of details. So my advice would be to try to use a model, just use speech to text and ask it what the prompt would be and try it out. It works, actually.